Hello, I'm Geeta Nadkarni. I'm the founder of Impact with Influence. And if you are a recovering therapist, if you're a coach that is burning out doing one-on-one sessions and working with clients just one-on-one, whether you do it with packages or hourly, and you're like, yeah, I would love to do group, but Geeta, I don't want my results to tank. My clients come first. I so hear you because this was absolutely my struggle when I first started thinking about doing group. And today we're going to talk about how you can get better results for your clients with your group program than you currently can just doing one-on-one. Let's do it. Love for you to share right now. What is your biggest struggle with group programs? And by the way, do you hear that glitchiness in the music, or is it just me? Because I hear a lot of glitchiness in the music.
It's just you.
It's just me.
It's just you.
Fair enough. All right. So tell me in the comment section, what is your biggest struggle with group programs? Also, if you're watching this live, give me a big old hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then consider subscribing so that you'll be notified every time I do a deep dive training like this, which I do once a week. And you're going to get more out of these trainings than you probably did in your last $6,000 program. I have heard that over and over and over again, so I know it's true. All right. Hey, we have some folks live. That's amazing. All right. So I'm just going to get into it because I have a lot of material to cover today. So we're talking about, I just want to be clear, what we're talking about here is not so much how to transition from one-on-one to group, because I have a whole separate training deep dive that I've already done on that subject. If you want that training, then say, I'd love that training. Tell me how to transition from one-on-one to group. And someone on my team, Tiffany or James, will get in touch with you and get you that training. But for today's purposes, we're talking, so sweet. We're talking about how we're going to get better results with your group program, right? So that's our primary focus. I just want to be clear about that. The very first thing I'm going to talk about is going to make you really scratch your head because you're going to just be like, why are we talking about this? What does this have to do with anything? But if you followed me for any length of time, you know how I feel about the push-pull that happens between the subconscious and the conscious when they're not on the same page, right? So if you're new to this, if you're new to me, here's what I believe. The subconscious, your emotional body, your emotional brain, all of your feelings, all of your programs, all of your memories that you don't consciously remember, all of those affect your day-to-day decision making. And what tends to happen is your subconscious is like 80%, maybe even 90% of you. And your conscious mind, your intellectual brain, your analytical thoughts, your rational process, all of that is just 10% of you. Now imagine if there's a tug of war with 90% of you pulling in one direction and 10% of you pulling in the other. Well, you know who's going to win that every single time, correct? So what we're going to do today is we're going to make sure that your subconscious needs and fears are being spoken to right up top. So the very first thing I'm going to get you to decide is if you were to give up all of the hustle and the hard work and all of the things that are probably your current identity around doing all of these hours and hours and hours of work, if you were to actually have freedom, decide what that freedom is for. Okay? Decide what that freedom is for. And a lot of type A overachievers like me have energy around the word freedom. We want it consciously, but subconsciously we're like, I don't want to get lazy, man. You don't understand. Like deep down, I'm actually a very lazy person. And if I didn't beat myself up, I would get nothing done. I don't know if you can relate to this, but this is literally, I am transcribing one of my constant subconscious beliefs back in the day. Like this was absolutely a belief that I had. I was like, I'm actually a very lazy person. And everybody in my life was like, are you crazy? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. If I took my foot off the accelerator, like I would just drool all day and watch Netflix. Like I would not actually do anything. So I had a very messed up relationship with spaciousness. And I had to script that relationship. That was a huge part of creating freedom in my life. Because if deep down you believe that you're winning at the expense of your clients, then you're never going to do it, or you're going to constantly self sabotage. You're going to try to do it and you're going to mess it up on purpose. Does this make sense? Tell me if this is resonating for you, or if you can relate to any of these crazy stories from your subconscious, because God knows I got plenty of them. Okay. So what I like to do is first of all, I have reworded freedom, because freedom can mean lots of different things. And it was kind of, it's very colored by other people's vision of it, like private jets and all the stuff that doesn't really resonate for me. So I use the word spaciousness. I love spaciousness in my life. I like big, wide spaces, right? I don't want to be under pressure constantly. I don't want to always be under some deadline. I like spaciousness. Some deadlines are obviously helpful and I enjoy them. However, I don't want everything to be deadline driven, right? Does that make sense? So I like deadlines. I am definitely a quick start. I love my deadline, but I want spaciousness when I work. I want spaciousness to coach. I want to be able to think through things. That's when I do my best work. And when I'm free, when I'm with my children, or when I'm just taking a free day by myself, I don't want to be tethered to my phone. In fact, I don't want to check email at all. My team knows when on Fridays, I'm out. I'm like, nobody even talks to me. No one pings me. They don't even bother because they know I'm not there. Does that make sense? So that spaciousness was really, really important to me. So decide, how many of you, if I were to be like, all right, you have a free day right now, a quality free day. This is not like a free day. Most people, this is what your free day typically looks like. And tell me if you're guilty. Give me a hashtag guilty if this is you, right? Typically, most people's free day is, let me go run to the bank. Let me go do some grocery shopping. Let me go meal plan. Let me go catch up on sleep. Let me go like do X, Y, Z other thing. All of the tasks. Let me run to Costco because it's been running of holding over my head. Let me go pick up the dry cleaning. That's most people's free day, which is not, when you listen to me, like how much of this list makes you wildly inspired and feel spacious and rich, right? Guilty. There you go, right? And I know, because that's most people, myself included. I had to get extremely deliberate about scripting and designing my free days. So Fridays are my days of spaciousness. And Pat knows, because sometimes Pat's like, hey man, you should go to the bank and deposit those checks. Hey man, you should do this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, are you talking to me on a Friday? Like, do you not know what Fridays are for? And he's like, right. Okay, don't give me a lecture. Goodbye. Right. So here's what I use my Fridays for. I use my extra spaciousness to get coached myself. So I will often, if I'm getting coaching from someone, I will often schedule those for Fridays. I expand my knowledge and skill set. So I might be taking reading. I do a lot of reading on Fridays. I'll listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'll go for long walks. I use it to reflect. I use it to nourish my relationships. That took a big hit, through the pandemic when we were homeschooling. I don't know if any of you can relate, right? Because it was like I was either at my desk working or parenting full on, right? Homeschooling or asleep. Like those were my three states through 2020. So a lot of my relationships kind of just stagnated, and I needed to give myself permission to get back in that game. So I take Fridays to deliberately reconnect with friends who are in different time zones, because I have flexibility, so then I can be flexible when they can't. And that's been sort of something that's really nourishing me and creating a lot of homeschooling. There you go. I add joy to my life. I add diverse experiences. It's also a day for integration. And what I mean by integration is you might have an amazing week, you might have a terrible week. All of it is going to create emotional residue. Do you have time to process this residue? Most of us don't. Most of us go from experience to experience to experience to experience, and then we fall asleep, and then we wake up, and sometimes we wake up in the middle of sleep, and we're like processing and processing and processing in the middle of the night, and it's a lot, right? It's just exhausting, and that's what leads to burnout. So what I've done is I've given myself a day to just marinate. I don't have anything to do. I have no results that are expected of me. I just wander around. Literally, I'll wander around in my neighborhood aimlessly. Pat sometimes asks me, it's like, oh, you're going for a walk? Where are you going? And I'm like, somewhere in this neighborhood. I don't know. And then he just, he can track me on my phone if for safety reasons, but I have no plan. And for somebody, the rest of my 4 days are very heavily scheduled. So that day off is like beautiful because there's nothing scheduled or very little scheduled, or anything that is scheduled is extremely pleasurable for me. It's something I'm looking forward to. So that's something that's important. So figure out what to do with your free time. Otherwise, you're never going to have it. any free time that you do create by switching your business model, you will eat up with busy work and more insane self-development and this, that, and the other thing, all done from that place of urgency and lack. And that's not going to ever buy you freedom. Tell me if this resonates. All right. Now, and by the way, doing this, having that day of spaciousness, this is actually something that we're going to integrate into our program and start teaching it as a core concept, because I didn't realize that this was completely foreign to most people. And I should have, because it was foreign to me once upon a time. But there you have it. We're going to actually build this into our program, in 2022. So that's how important I think this is. And what this does is the spaciousness that you put in your calendar creates spaciousness with your identity. Then when you have a difficult week, month, quarter, and business is not going the way that you were hoping and results are not coming in the way that you want them to, you're not destroyed from an identity perspective. You still have some space to bring creativity in. You still have space to enjoy the rest of your life. It doesn't tank you completely. That's true freedom, at least by my definition. Let me know if that resonates for you. All right. Now, point number 2, when it comes to making your group get as good or better results than your one-on-one, understand your group dynamic. Understand the group dynamic as a group. So this is something, so imagine, right? If you've been in coaching any amount of time, you have had a resistant client or two. Now, what typically happens with a resistant client, especially when you're in that one-on-one dynamic, is they'll come to you and they'll use your one-on-one session as a venting board. Like they're like, oh, just listen to my problem. And oh my God, this is all the reasons that I have this problem. Why do I still have this problem? I'm doing everything right, yada, yada. And they just keep going. How many of you have experienced this, right? And then you're like, okay, let me help you. And then you try, and then because you're concerned with the amount of angst that they have, it kind of kickstarts your insecurity, and then you try to step in and be like, no, let me give you some advice, let me help you fix this, right? And that's a very deadly spiral, because now they have something to resist, so then they resist your advice, which then makes your advice useless, which then compounds their problem, etc., and then everybody's unhappy, everybody's second guessing that decision to work together, etc. Now put that same resistant client in a group setting, and now all of a sudden, first of all, the venting thing doesn't have much place in the group setting, which is good, because they can shift and we have a place for that. I'll get to that in a second. But in that group setting, now they're like, okay, I'm here to fix the problem. I'm here to find a solution. The venting happens in a different space. So we do still have one-on-one, and I'll get to that in a second. But in the group setting, they can be sitting there like this. And we have clients like that, all right? And not every client, and this is not a solid state where the client is just resistant. This is just who they are. It's not like that. Clients can be very open and coachable about some concepts, and they can be extremely resistant to other concepts. Same person, different state, depending on the context. Okay, so there's no judgment here. So they might be leaning back and sitting there. Now you're coaching somebody else through a problem. Now you're showing this other person, they can see themselves in the other client. They can see how the process is happening, but it's not threatening to them. They don't have to give up their problem or their angst in this moment to be able to just witness it happening to somebody else. Oftentimes, and then you add multiple perspectives, perspectives where you have people of different ages, people with different industries, people who come from different backgrounds, different genders, different race, different this, different that. Now all of a sudden, the story in their head of this couldn't possibly work for me because I either don't have XYZ or do have XYZ obstacle, that gets chipped away, because they can see that this is resonating, and it resonates differently for different people. And the group dynamic is amazing, because then people can also contribute and share, hey, I understood this way. This is what's worked for me. I don't follow the system exactly the way Geeta teaches it. I do it this way. It has been invaluable, because we're meant to be part of a collective. And another thing from a trauma-informed perspective is when you have trauma, when you're working from a place of hurt or woundedness, right? When you've had something and you're being triggered, then having that group space where you're not the focal point of the discussion, where you're watching the same topic be discussed by other people that are close to you and in the same context, but the spotlight isn't on you, that allows you to kind of step in and out of the discussion and of the situation, depending on what your central nervous system can handle. So that can be another benefit to group if you're doing it in the safe. Obviously, you have to do a good job of creating a safe space. And that's very important. But if you've created that safe container, then the person can kind of interact as needed. And sometimes we'll have clients who are like really triggered and they'll private chat, or they'll put something in the chat and they're like, I don't want to share this out, out in public, but this really like this, I'm freaking out about this. And then we'd be like, great, bring this to David, bring this to Steve, bring this to your mindset coach for a one-on-one session. And this is something that tribal societies didn't have therapists where you're doing stuff one-on-one. Tribal societies used to have, and more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not just tribes necessarily, but more ancient societies that didn't have a lot of depression and mental illness because the support for it was built in. One of the things they did better than our modern people do, and again, I'm very much modern in this respect, relationships have been something that I've had to very, very deliberately redesign into my life. So I'm not claiming any expertise on this at all. But what tribal societies have been able to do is have that group space where people can be witnessed and people's pain is shared and people's joy is shared, because it's both those things, right? Having your pain shared and having your joy shared. And even if nobody has the exact answer to your exact problem in that moment, just having others hold space for you to be feeling whatever it is you're feeling can be an extremely healing experience. And that is something that you can absolutely create in a group. So there's that. Now, moving on to the next point, which is to do a hybrid. So remember, I talked about there will be place to do a one-on-one well, this is what we're talking about. So our own program is designed as a hybrid. Each of our clients does 4 mindset sessions with our mindset coach, and this is all one-on-one. It's completely confidential. It's a video thing, a video session. We use hypnotherapy, we use EFT, we use CBT, we use all kinds of different therapies depending on what the client needs and what their particular situation is and what they're responsive to, because there's a minority of people who don't respond well to hypnotherapy, or just don't want to use it, or it doesn't work for them. Very small minority, but there are people like that, and we'll use different therapies with them. But that's what we do one-on-one. So there is space. That's when you go and you can vent, and your therapist will hold space for that and be like, hey, okay, let's go deeper. Let's not run away from that feeling. Let's not get caught up in the story of it. Let's just go straight to the emotion. What's happening in your body? Let's go deeper. Let's feel that, you've got anger on top. Okay, let's peel back that layer. Let's go feel that sadness, that rejection, that shame, or whatever it is that's under the anger, where the anger was safe, but that deeper layer is not safe and therefore not expressed and not acknowledged. Let's acknowledge it. Let's pull out the story of it. And then what we do is those insights get taken to our copy team. And then the copy team will work with you again, one-on-one. This is in writing through Google Docs, but the copy team will work with you one-on-one to then develop your deepest insights, your pain, your breakthroughs into your messaging, because that's when nobody can compete with you. That's when you sound like yourself and not somebody else. You don't blend into the noise where there's a gazillion coaches doing the same thing out there. Well, this is what's going to make you sound completely fresh, completely resonant and rich and deep and on point for the people that you work with. Does that make sense? There you go. Megan says, this makes a lot of sense. Freedom is one of my top values. So do a hybrid program, and that allows you to have the best of both worlds. This is how you know your group program is going to create better results as a group than you could ever do one-on-one, because you're not taking away the one-on-one, you're adding the group. You see how different that feels in your body? This is why you have to have a conversation with yourself about what are you going to do with all the damn freedom, because you're going to have it. You are going to have it. And if you don't know how to manage it, then you're going to complicate it with busy work, right? So you're going to have the one-on-one. You can keep all of the depth and the insight and the connection and the intimacy of one-on-one. You're adding community on top. And so you're adding this whole dimension to your system. And that by adding it, it's many hands make light work, which brings me to my final point today, which is have a team. You don't have to do everything by yourself, right? You don't have to do everything by yourself. That was like, just as in a group program, the collective, right, having all the clients together makes your program run smoother and allows your clients to have breakthroughs that they would not necessarily have had by themselves. Having a team facilitating that also brings a lot of different skill sets. So when you work with us, like if you were to work with our team, if you were to work with me, you're not working with just me, you're working with my team, right? So we have hypnotherapists on the team, we have deep copy coaches on the team who are, so I'm everybody's coach. You work with me directly, yes, but in addition to me, you also have all of this incredible support. And what that does is, I don't have the skill set. I'm not a hypnotherapist. I couldn't take you to those depths and hold space for you in that particular way. I have a different way of doing it. So I'll do it my way. But what's complementary to my way and what makes my way that much more effective is to have someone like David or Steve hold that deep space for our clients so that they can have just, we're not coming to the problem just one way. We're coming to the problem in this beautiful, holistic, global way. And what that does is it allows us to compress time. It allows us to just cut down the time that's required for each breakthrough, and it allows people to have things come up. So as our clients are implementing the business strategy, as they're changing their business model and simplifying it, as they're exploring their messaging, as they're learning to sell and getting on sales calls and having all their feelings come up, we have the support to then deal with everything that's being released, everything that's coming up for examination, everything that needs itself to be heard. And then it's resolved. And then the learning sticks, the process sticks. You don't have to hop from thing to thing to thing to thing because you never really dealt with what was underneath that was preventing you from having it. Does this make sense? All right. Neeta says, that has been radical for me, Geeta, after working with you. I was complicating by having two separate tracks, one-on-one and group, and everyone loves community. There you have it. So it's just everybody who comes through our program really has this aha, because not only do we teach you how to do it, we embody it. We're doing it with you. We're demonstrating how it works because that's the only way. Like, you lead by example. And ultimately, I designed my program for me first because I wanted these breakthroughs. I wanted to understand this better. And the best way for me to understand it is by teaching it and by putting it out. Does that make sense? There you go. The final piece is give your clients lifetime access to your module. So this is something that we do as well. Different people will go at different speeds. No one can predict these speeds. People who go very, very fast in life can sometimes really slow down because they've been so used to going fast. They have a lot of sludge of unexamined emotions, repressed, suppressed, ignored emotions that need to be dealt with. And so progress can sometimes feel slow and plodding, especially for speed bunnies. Again, speaking from experience, right? But we have the tools to give them the support that they need so that they can move forward. And then the beautiful thing is they retain access to all of the recordings of the video modules, the templates, the audio exercises, all of that. So they retain access to all of it. So then they can keep coming back. Our most successful clients, typically our clients implement about 10% of our program and they're having 30, 40, 50, sometimes $90,000 months, no ads, nothing, just from implementing the messaging and having this layer of depth where now they're coming across so deeply authentic that their people are like, wow, how come I've never heard of you? Like, you get me, you are me, right? And then it just becomes a really easy conversation to proceed from there. So what we decided very, very early on was to not charge for constant access to our recordings and things like that. We include them. So when people sign up for our program, it's like you have lifetime access to all the updates even. So we're constantly updating our program. You want your clients to get good results. You want them to keep coming back to you for more. Give them access to the basics for free forever, right? Like, I mean, not for free. Once they've paid for the program, allow them to continue to have access to the basics, keep the basics up to date. And then what they can pay you for if they choose to continue with you is the support. So that allows you to also stay solvent as a company. You're not a nonprofit, right? So you need to turn a profit in order to keep hiring the team that you need to help your clients get better results. So this way, the whole system feeds itself and it's self-sustaining. When you charge a premium, you can hire A players. The A players, together with your skills, will deliver better results. The results are now delivered in a way that is scalable because you're not just doing it one on one. Many hands make for light work. So everybody gets freedom, but everybody also has space to work. And because everybody's working together, that client gets infinitely more support, which then gets them better results. Rinse, repeat. You see how that works.
Did you have some images, like some testimonial from
I
Sumia?
did. I completely forgot about those.
That's why I'm
So
mentioning
this is
it.
one of our clients. This is one of our clients. I asked in our group, I was like, hey guys, what are some of the best things or the most surprising things you've learned from running your own program as groups? So a lot of these people never had groups before. So they were all coming from the one-on-one coaching world. And Soumya says, when they see that they're not the only ones going through it, it helps them push themselves to get the results they want. It's so powerful, guys, when your clients can realize I'm not the only freak. I'm not alone in my struggle. I'm not alone in my pain. I'm not the only person in the world that has this problem. It's weird. It's that self acceptance of, you mean I'm okay? All is not lost. There's hope. That it's that self acceptance that then fuels the hope that then allows for change. Does that make sense? You get way better results when your people feel supported and they feel less alone. Jessica says they all chime in and help each other, and therefore they get even more support. So they're feeling like they're being heard and they're hearing from more than just the coach. That's another really powerful piece as well. You're getting a lot of different, I talked about this, getting a lot of different perspectives so that people can understand the problem and the solution from this much wider range of thought, right? So you're not the only thought leader. The pressure for you to have all the answers is also taken away because now, again, the load is shared because everybody is solving the common problem because you have boiled it down. And this is what we teach you to do in our program. You have distilled it down to the universals that apply to everybody, even though the specifics may look different for each person. Okay, Stephanie says, when they start to support each other, uplift each other, teach each other, when the student becomes a mentor themselves, and when they're open to growth they don't foresee and growth that they didn't foresee or recognize, but graciously receive as they now see how valuable they are. And they choose, because they see how valuable they are, they choose to give instead of just receive. Right? Like, who doesn't want that in their group? Who doesn't want that for their clients? Adrian says, for my clients with migraine, the power of community in a group coaching program is huge. Clients feel like they're not alone and that there are others who understand what it's really like. They don't have to fake or sugarcoat how they feel. The sense of community is one of the biggest benefits that my clients experience. Now, think about it. Community is not something that you're doing all by yourself. Community is something that is shared. So again, this is a lighter load for you. You want to have freedom, you want to prevent burnout. Stop trying to do all the things by yourself. You were never meant to do them all by yourself. And having a group program and then having a team supporting that group, having more togetherness is what's going to help shift people and transform them, which is what results are all about. All right. Finally, we have Tasnuva. Oh, I love her. She says the best things are less work but more impact. Whoop whoop, right? Who doesn't want that? The camaraderie between members and the genuine support each of them bring to the table has made the whole process enjoyable and better results are obtained. Humans are competitive by nature. So when previously it was just one client versus herself, now there's four other mamas and they put in more effort. This is the best teaching of you, Geeta Nadkarni. I can't thank you enough for A, teaching us about the group format, and B, that business is more personal development. So that gives you and these are all from clients who've worked with us. So you get a sense of what it feels like to have a group that is designed right. Because I think a lot of us, when you've been in groups that weren't run well or didn't understand the dynamics correctly, it can sour you on groups in general. And I hope that this training has taken you a few steps away in the opposite direction where you can now go in and design it to be whatever you choose it to be. Your community is what you choose it to be. And if you design it very intentionally and you set that space as a safe space where everybody contributes and everybody's a leader and everybody is welcome to both give and receive, then how can you not have results? That's what this is about. So if this is the kind of group that you want to run and you're struggling to figure out how to do it, use the link on your screen, get in touch with someone on my team, and we'll evaluate if we're in a position to help you. If we can help you, we'll invite you to work with us. If we can't help you, we'll give you resources or a referral to somebody who can. All right, I will see you all next Thursday. Until then, stay tuned. Hello, everyone. I'm Geeta Nadkarni, founder of Impact with Influence. And today I want to share